It's time for another edition of Dome and Domer.
Hello again, Irish fans. Welcome back to Dome and Domer, the oldest Notre Dame sports podcast on the planet. I'm your host, Mike Sullivan from the class of 1990, and we've got a full house today to talk about the CFP rankings. Joining me, Mike Brammer from the class of 90, Mike Coffey from the class of 91, Ed Jordanek from the class of 89. Before we get into all of that, let's look at this date in Notre Dame history. I've got two, and I've been picking all wins if you've been paying attention. I only look back at the good memories, but today is a bit of a mixed bag. So in 1938, Elmer Layton's best team at Notre Dame, the Irish go into the Coliseum undefeated and lose to SC 13-0 to cost us the national championship. But on a positive note, because today is a mixed day, I'm going to go positive as well. 1949, Frank Leahy's team wraps up a perfect 10-0 season by beating SMU 27-20. We win the national championship. So which is it, half empty or half full? Last night's college football playoff rankings dropped the Irish to number 10. I'm sure everybody knows that by now. And on the surface, all that seems outrageous and nonsensical. Here's my theory on what happened, and it's some good, some bad. All right, let's first talk about Alabama. I think the committee moved Alabama into the 9th spot to protect them. Here's why. There's conventional wisdom is conference championship games aren't going to hurt you. But if Alabama is 10 and they're 9-3 and they lose in the SEC championship to finish 9-3, I guess that would make them 10-3, right? 10-3. So at 10-3, is there really no consequence for Alabama losing that game and keeping out a 10-2 Miami team, right? So I think they're moving Alabama up to 9 so that if they lose, they can drop them back to 10 and keep them in the field. So there is a consequence. If there's no consequence, those conference championship games more than ever are truly irrelevant. Like, why do you want to play in that game if you're Kirby Smart or IU or anybody, right? Why do you want to play in that game, risk injury? There's no consequences. So I think they moved Alabama up to 9 so they can drop them back to 10 if they lose and keep them in the field because you got to have Alabama in the field, right? All right. And another problem scenario the committee had was, what do you do if Duke wins? If Duke wins as a 7-5, moving to 8-5, they're the ACC champ. They're not getting in, right? Now the ACC doesn't have a team in the field. And who owns the CFP, guys? It's the Power Four conferences in Notre Dame own and operate the CFP. So are they really prepared in a Duke scenario where Duke wins to not have an ACC team? I think the answer is no. So what are they doing? They're moving Notre Dame back to 10. So the comparison between Notre Dame and Miami is so clearly evident. In the scenario where Duke wins, you can flip-flop Notre Dame and Miami, right? So two scenarios. One is Alabama loses. How do we keep them in the field? The other is, oh my God, what if Duke wins? How do we get an ACC team in there? And that's what I think happened. A third question we talked about was, what are they going to do with Mississippi and Lane Kiffin's departure? It looked like they just ignored it. Right?
That was
they
garbage.
Just ignored it, right? And so how Ole Miss can be ahead of A&M, I don't know. So there is some nonsensical. The rationale that they gave on TV, nonsensical. But my theory is they protected Alabama, moving them up so they can move them back, and they positioned Notre Dame close enough to Miami to swap them in the event of a Duke win. Okay, I'm going to shut up, let you guys tell me what you think is right or wrong. Eddie Jordanek, let's start with you.
I think everything that you're saying makes a lot of sense and is pretty plausible. But are you saying when you're talking about flipping Notre Dame and Miami, you mean Miami goes to where or Notre Dame goes to where?
Yeah, exactly. I didn't make that point clear, right? In the nightmare scenario of a Duke win, in my crazy theory of the world, Notre Dame is 10, Miami is 11, because BYU is going to lose, right? And so the committee, if Duke wins on Sunday, they're going to move Miami to 10 and move us out. That's what I'm saying. That's the bad news. The good news is in a different scenario, Alabama, let's say that Duke is not going to win. BYU's not going to win. Okay, now Alabama loses to Georgia, very plausible. They switch us and Alabama back, and we're in the 9th spot. Alabama suffered a consequence, and they go to the 10 spot. That's what I'm saying.
I thought it would be better for us. Man, I could be all wrong. This stuff, my personal opinion is that, who knows more about college football and these teams than anybody else? Vegas. Take the top 12 teams with the best odds of winning the national championship and make those the 12 teams in the playoff. But again, we've made a deal with the devil anyways. I mean, gambling is part of these part of the sports landscape now, and they're inextricably linked. So why not just do that? But again, that's not going to happen. I thought it would be, and this is just a rhetorical question, I thought it would be better for us if Duke wins, because isn't that a scenario where Miami and Notre Dame could both make the 12-team playoff?
No, because the two
Power
Fives, the two Tulane and what James Madison is looking like right now, but those guys are 11 and 12. So you got to take one of it's
the top 5 conference finishers all get a bid. In this case, the 2 G5s would finish ahead of the ACC, so they get the auto bids.
And that's what I'm saying, Eddie. Like, the ACC would be left out unless they swap Miami and Notre Dame. And Miami gets in as an Miami gets in as an ACC at large, not as the ACC champ, but as an at large, meaning our at large spot.
Okay. So, but then we're kind of screwed either way, because if Virginia wins, are you saying that they're going to exclude Miami and take us?
Because they at least have an ACC team in if Virginia wins.
Yeah,
I think that's the argument he's making.
So you do think the committee is ready or fine to take the heat for taking Notre Dame and not Miami?
I do. I think they hedged their. I mean, listen, what do I know, right? I think they are hedging their bets. The 2 scenarios. Let's say the first scenario is Virginia wins, BYU loses, right? It's the favorites win. Okay, in that situation, the precedent they've established that we think Notre Dame is better. I think they can play that one out and take the heat for it. But they can't play that one out if the ACC has nobody. Like, they're not going to stand for the ACC not having a representative, because the ACC is a part owner of the thing.
Sure.
Coffee, what do you think about this nonsense?
I don't necessarily think it's nonsense. I think they're going out of their way to protect Alabama, because if Alabama's the first team out 2 years in a row, I don't think the committee's prepared for that amount of heat, because the spoiled brats down in Tuscaloosa think that everything should continue, even though the best coach in college football is not coaching there anymore. So my response to Alabama would be, you're mad about missing the playoffs? Don't lose to a crappy Florida State team. I mean, that's basically what it would come down to. I think, and I posted this on the site recently, and this may not be popular, but I think if it comes down to Miami versus Notre Dame, I realize we probably have the better resume or whatever, but Miami won it on the field. And if it comes down to Miami and us for the last spot, I think you got to give it to Miami. I mean, I will go to my grave knowing that Notre Dame was the national champion in 1993, because we won it on the field. And all the games have to mean something. I mean, if we get put in over Miami, even though they beat us on the field, what's to stop some of these other people who have game contracts with us saying there's no advantage to playing Notre Dame, because if they win, they get the benefit. If we lose, it's like heads I win, tails you lose. And now maybe I'm talking nonsense, but I think the college football playoffs is now the be all end all. And so far, people are not getting punished for dumbing down their schedules. I mean, look at all these teams that are playing in these divisionless conferences. Indiana, outside of Oregon, didn't play anybody tough. Ohio State, outside of Michigan, didn't play anybody tough. Now, I'm sure they planned on Penn State being better than they were, but their schedule was filled with a lot of bottom feeders in their conference, and that's especially true in the ACC. I mean, all of these conferences are trying to grease the skids to get their teams in, and non-conference games with Notre Dame aren't necessarily amenable to that. I mean, as I've said so far on the site many times, you can't just snap your fingers and make games appear. We need to maintain the incentive for us to have late season games against quality opponents. I mean, look what happened to us this year. The entire latter half of the schedule was crap.
Okay, where are we going with this here, Mike? What are we trying to say? You think that Miami should get in ahead of us? Do you think
if it comes down to a direct comparison between Indy and Miami, Miami should get in?
Okay, I guess I totally get that argument. At the same time,
but I also think if Alabama loses, they should be out.
Hold on a minute. You said if Alabama, you have nothing to complain about, you lost to a crappy Florida State team. Well, I mean, apply that logic to Miami, and Miami lost to two teams that in the unranked teams in their conference that didn't make their conference championship. If you want to get in the playoffs, don't lose as a favorite twice. So True. It cuts both ways. It's not an easy choice.
I read an article where someone did the analysis that said SMU and Louisville would have been the 4th and 5th toughest team on our schedule. I mean, our schedule was crap. I'm sorry, it was.
So if we lost to the 4th and 5th toughest teams on our schedule, but beat Miami and Texas A&M, and we were sitting at 10-2, but the two losses were NC State and Boise State or whatever. I don't know how we'd be treated in that situation. It's an interesting question. Bram, I know you've been sitting there growing your Santa Claus beard, waiting for a chance to talk. So you go ahead.
Well, I will say a couple of things. One is this is going to expose the committee if, in fact, what you say comes true, because all along you've been saying Notre Dame makes the eye test, and all of a sudden now, well, they don't, because the comparison between Miami and Notre Dame now flips back to Miami, even though you won the eye test all the way through the season. So the committee is kind of setting themselves up, if this in fact plays out, where, now that we have to make a direct comparison, now we're going to give it to them. I don't think that holds any weight. I think it's pretty obvious just based on the committee chair, I forget his name, but for him to come on national television right afterwards and say, well, we thought Alabama played a really good first half.
that was garbage.
Yeah, I mean, just for him to say that is just kind of ridiculous. I mean, get your talking points together before you get on national television and say that the first half of a game between a bottom feeder and the SEC, because it was a rivalry game, hey, man, Alabama rebounded after they almost gave it up in the second half, went for it on 4th and 2 inside their own 5, and as a result, won a really big game, and it was a big rivalry game. All right, we're going to jump them ahead of Notre Dame. Look, at the end of the day, you can say what you want, but if they do, in fact, do that, well, then it was a whole myth for them putting Notre Dame where they had them the entire last 5 rankings.
Well, I think you said something really, really good, Bram. You said, it was theoretical up until this point, right? And now that they have to make the choice, the conditions are different. But I'm wondering, if you were going to drop Notre Dame in anticipation of putting Miami in, why didn't they just do it yesterday? Anybody have a theory on, I think one school of thought is it's because they're really positioning Alabama to drop to 10 and us back to 9, and they're hedging against the Duke win. But if they were going to drop us because Miami actually has the better criteria, then why not just do it last night altogether?
Yeah, well, I think the problem with all of this is, back to Ed's point, if you're really trying to find the best teams in college football, then what is your criteria? What are you using? Because don't play this game of we got to protect ourselves and position ourselves based on what could happen. Just take the best freaking teams in college football and put them into the playoffs.
Why are we even threatened by James Madison and Tulane and North Texas, is what you're saying, right?
Yeah,
they're going to get their doors blown off whoever they play anyway.
Right, and it's a problem with the current structure and what they've agreed to and how they got everybody to buy into this. I get all that. I understand that, which is just going to make the case for a 16-team playoff. I mean, we're falling right into this trap. It's going to be so easy for them to go to 16 games after this current structure plays out because of the mess that we've got right now. You've got James Madison.
That's not a trap, Bram. That's a good thing. 16 teams is great.
It's a better thing. I'm just saying that it just makes it so much easier for these guys. There's going to be absolutely zero pushback on any of that because of what's playing out right now. And that is, you got 2 Power 5 schools that got no business being in the playoffs that are going to be in the playoffs. And that was a scenario they just couldn't foresee. Who could see that in the future? That you would never expect that. Who could foresee Duke at 7-5 winning the ACC? And there's your problem with Miami. They back to Coffee's point. I'm going to disagree with him wholeheartedly. You can't not win your conference and expect that you should get in over an independent Notre Dame. Okay, you played us in the first game of the season. Fine, I get that. But we're talking about who are the best teams right now in college football. Back to Ed's point, who's favored against Miami and Notre Dame in a neutral site? We all know the answer to that. It's Notre Dame. That's what Vegas is saying. Vegas is saying the only 3 teams that could beat Notre Dame in a neutral site are the 3 teams ranked 1, 2, and 3. Everybody else would lose to Notre Dame. That's what they're saying. So put your money where your mouth is.
And that's why I think, for all those reasons, I think we're still okay as long as Texas Tech wins, as long as Virginia wins. I think we're going to be the 9 seed, and if we're 9 or 10, that's
if
how
Bama
I
loses. I think Bama's got to lose, though. I mean, otherwise you bring that right back up again.
But
Is there
the
any
ACC
chance...
has a team, and that to me, that's
it softens the blow. I agree.
Right.
It totally softens the blow. I get it.
Is there any chance the ACC could just Bigfoot Virginia and Duke, give them a couple $1 million each, and put Miami in the playoff?
That's what I would do.
They'd agree. Yeah.
Yeah. As I said, I think in the last show, I guarantee you the first thing the ACC is going to do when this season's done is change their tiebreaker rules to incorporate the CFP rankings.
Totally.
Yeah.
But honestly, I'm worried about the TCU game. Not necessarily because I think TCU is, or Texas Tech rather. I'm sorry. I keep getting them mixed up.
It's okay.
But I don't think that BYU is a better team than Texas Tech. I guarantee you they're not. What I'm worried about is Texas Tech. Texas Tech won't have their foot on the gas very much because, yeah, they're playing for a bye, but even if they lost, they'd still host in the first round. So they're in regardless.
They're not getting
a second Big 12 team gets in, which gets everybody in the conference more money. And based on what their coach has said about Notre Dame, he gets to stick it to us.
Well, let's talk about the money here for a minute, right? So it's $300,000 per team goes to the conference. But if you're in the quarterfinals, if Tech wins and keeps a bye, they're all automatically in the quarterfinals. That's worth $4 million. So would the Big 12 rather have the $4 million payout for having a team in the quarterfinals, or 2 teams in the first round for $600,000? I mean, the money works in the favor of Texas Tech keeping their foot on the gas, in my opinion.
Yeah, but if, let's say, both those teams advance they're not going to play each other. They'll both have a chance to advance to the quarterfinals, and if they do, well, that's $8 million.
$4
How much
million
confidence
in hand.
is in that room, though, Coffee, for them thinking that BYU is going to win their game?
Right, $4 million
that one you
in
can
hand.
just toss right out.
Right. Yeah. The chance.
Yeah, but that Texas Tech coach really doesn't like us at all, based on what he said after they beat BYU. So I don't know.
I would disagree.
It's highly unlikely to happen, but
yeah.
I don't know. It's a tie game late, and they say, screw it, we're in regardless. And
I can't agree with any of that. What is his contractual incentive for winning the Big 12? Personally, I'm going to guess that his contract rewards him for winning the conference championship. And this is a highly competitive industry. Guys want to win. Players want to win. People want trophies. And being pissed off at Notre Dame is not enough for him to torpedo. The only
trophy that matters now is the one you get at the CFP at the end. In fact, one thing I do think we want to make sure to cover is, one thing this hopefully does is really just throw gasoline on there's no need for conference championship games, like blow all those up. I'd like to see Alabama miss the CFP, and have the SEC say, you know what, we're not doing a conference championship game anymore. I mean, the team with the best record wins.
Yeah.
And that's that.
That's not going to happen because they moved them up to 9 so that they can drop them to 10. Again, who owns the CFP? The SEC does, right? The ACC does. So
doesn't it sort of make sense, though, if they go to 16 teams, that they would eliminate the conference championships?
Yeah, they will.
Just to
I
get
think
the
almost definitely.
To stay
the
on
automatic
the same calendar
bids, they will.
schedule.
Yeah.
I hope you're right, Eddie. To me, that makes sense. Like the 4 additional games that would be played generate more revenue, you would think, and that maybe offsets the loss of revenue from total speculation here, but
whatever happened to the rule that you had to have divisions in your conference to have a championship game? That rule seems to have drifted away somehow.
they abandoned that a couple years ago when they expanded to the mega conferences and got away from the divisional thing. I mean, there's no NCAA, right? There's no governing body. The governing body is the conferences. The inmates are running the asylum.
Basically.
You know, the other thing is that what people never, ever talk about when it comes to scheduling is, and I know this is kind of more applicable to Notre Dame, but now that these conferences have gotten so big, it impacts them too, is the randomness, okay? Notre Dame does not play Citadel, Samford, UNC Chattanooga, they don't play teams like that, okay, which are actual cupcakes, okay? The fact of the matter is that even though they suck this year, the NC States, the Syracuses, the Boston Colleges, the Purdues of the world, they have a chance to knock off a big opponent, a Notre Dame, an Ohio State, a Michigan. We've seen it happen through the years. Okay, those are legitimate Division I football programs that are in a bad way right now. But when we make our schedule years and years and years in advance, Stanford is kicking ass, Florida State is kicking ass, North Carolina State is going to a December or late December bowl game. BC is beating Clemson. We're giving them, so it always gets me when they talk about Notre Dame's soft schedule. Notre Dame does not play any of these FCS teams or whatever that the SEC throws in there week 8, 9. And then if you look at who IU played in their non-conference schedule, I mean, seriously, guys, come on. The Sycamores of Indiana State.
Eddie, you're spot on. You are 100% right. And when you look at our schedule, 10 Power 4 games and 2 Group of 5 games. Who are a Group of 5? Boise State, who was in the playoffs, and Navy, who beat frickin' Oklahoma in a bowl game last year. But yet everybody's like, Navy. Give me. And by the way, I thought it was curious that Navy was not in the top 25, even though they are in the coaches poll and the AP poll. Yeah. And that hurts our resume, right? Yeah. So I just feel like they're playing chess. They're all positioning the pieces for the next move. And if they have to bump us, they can. And if they have to drop Alabama and keep them in, they can. And that's how I see it.
Isn't Boise State arguably the best Group of 5 pro football program in the country for the last 20 years?
Of course.
And that's why we put them on the schedule, right?
Of course.
Boise, yeah. I mean, there's no program that's been as consistently good and competed for New Year's Day games than Boise from the Group of 5.
Yeah, 100%. All the more reason why. It goes back to the whole eye test thing. You can't do anything about the schedule mid-season. I mean, it is what it is. Like the schedule's set years in advance, like you say. You have to evaluate, okay, how does this team operate against who they're playing and what was the level of domination? And it's clear Notre Dame in the last 9 games has dominated in a way that we've not seen in the past. You haven't seen a single game that was even close. And it's because of the firepower that we have, both offensively and defensively. You got 2 of the best running backs in college football in the backfield at Notre Dame, and you've got a guy that has started out green as hell in the first 2 games, but has picked it up from there in CJ Carr. And I think his level of execution is way higher than what it was in the first 2 games. There's just no doubt about it. That's why Vegas is saying there's no way Notre Dame loses to them now.
Yeah,
either
absolutely.
One of those teams.
Eddie, to your point about Boise State, since 2012, Boise State has the 8th best winning percentage in FBS in the country, right?
Sure.
Ohio State, Alabama, Clemson, Georgia, Notre Dame's 5th, Oklahoma 6, Oregon 7, Boise State 8, right? So going out and scheduling your non-Power 4 games the way we do speaks to our aggressive scheduling. And we never get credit for that. Never get credit for that. And in these blown up super big conferences like IU this year or Ohio State, great. You're in the Big Ten. You didn't play the best of the Big Ten. IU, I'm not going to take anything away from IU. Winning at Oregon, dominating the way they have, IU's legit, right? But, just because you're in the SEC doesn't mean you played an SEC schedule.
Well, Ole Miss, there's your answer right there.
Right.
Who did they beat? That's really good.
Nobody.
Oklahoma. Okay, well, Oklahoma was questionable. We all know that. Tulane is your other big win. Great, good win, fellas. Big win.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think we're in a stage where the SEC is overrated right now. It's not what it used to be 8 years
Absolutely.
ago, 6 years ago. It is not the same SEC because of NIL. The field is now leveled in a way that it wasn't back then. Now it is. So there is no domination now inside the SEC like there used to be.
The bag man is
There's
now
good
legal.
teams. Don't get me wrong. It's the best conference at the moment. The Big Ten's down a little bit right now. Okay, fine. But, the SEC is not the dominant league that it was 5 years ago. It's different now.
Who would be
And-
the first team out if we're just taking the
12 best.
taking the best teams?
Texas.
In other words,
Texas is
Yeah,
the first
Texas
team
is
out.
13th right now.
Vanderbilt would be in, and
right?
who's the other one
Miami would
with
be
2
in.
losses? You got
Well,
3
Miami-
losses. You can't argue to be in. Yeah, Vandy and Miami are in. Texas is on the outside, but they got 3 losses. So you know what?
Yeah.
Too bad.
You're talking
Yeah,
about a scenario that is truly the 12 best, not the
Right.
current rules and structure. Yeah.
Right,
Mhm.
right. Because I heard like Sarkeesian, making this argument about, well, listen, I get it. You're going to lobby for your team. I don't have any problem with that. But back in the day, the scheduling mattered less, and it was really about wins and losses, right? The teams that were undefeated were teams, were ranked 1, 2, and 3. The teams that had 1 loss were in the next group, and teams with 2 losses were in the next group. I mean, you just did not see, and it really didn't matter, if Notre Dame had an easy schedule that year or they had 3 great wins. If they didn't lose, they rose to the top, and if they lost, they were in that next tier of 1-loss teams and 2-loss teams. I think it's very unusual. It was very unusual back then for a 3-loss team to be ahead of a 2-loss team, or a 2-loss team to be ahead of a 1-loss team by the end of the year. Maybe it happened, and this sort of worked in Notre Dame's favor this year because of when they lost. But in other years it won't. So I think that's why the eye test matters, is because you're not going to have this sort of, I don't think you can carry over these things from year to year.
Yeah. Ram, just back to the Tulane Ole Miss thing for a minute. That's a good win for them, and good for them for scheduling a non-SEC game against a group of 5 that's traditionally, or at least recently, been very good. Tulane's been legit as a group of 5 team. So I'm going to give Ole Miss credit for that. I just want to get credit for our wins against good group of 5 teams as well, right? Versus the scheduling that says, well, we're going to get an FCS team in here, right? So I'm going to give Ole Miss props for handling Tulane the way they did and scheduling the game. But I just want the same thing in return from the college football world. That's, I guess, my only critique of that. So,
well, the problem there is everyone out there assumes a conference game means more. And I know
Right.
that's the SEC thing, but everyone
Right.
assumes because it's a conference game, somehow little baby Jesus has come down and blessed everybody with superpowers. And even the worst team in the conference is better than any team you play outside the conference. It's stupid and it's completely ridiculous, but that's how all these idiots think.
right. And so when they say, well, Notre Dame doesn't play a conference schedule, by the way, we're playing 10 teams from the Power 4 conferences. So I guess, Mike, what they're saying is, yeah, there's nothing on the line because it's a non-conference game. Really? Notre Dame doesn't get everybody's best shot? I mean, come on.
Nobody
it's a
cares when they play Notre
Right.
Dame. It's, nah.
Exactly. Okay. You guys ready to move on to signing day and men's basketball?
I bet the audience definitely is. So
Okay. So coffee, signing day 27, blue chippers coming in. Give us your hot take on this class.
It's an outstanding class. It is probably among the better classes Notre Dame has signed, even going back to Vinny Serrato's days and of our vintage, and just well-rounded all around. I think there's quality at every position, which is outstanding. It's going to be ranked in the top 5 by everybody. The only thing that I find even more amazing is, and while it's early, the 2027 class is stacking up to be even better. So you got to give Marcus Freeman credit. He and his staff are working their behinds off. selling, and they're not selling any BS. I mean, his Marcus Freeman's mantra is choose hard, and he goes to these places. Yeah, it's not going to be as easy maybe as you go to Ohio State or go to a Georgia or something like that, where they may let you skate on this, that, or the other thing. You're going to work hard on the field and off the field, but you know what? You're still going to win, and you're going to be just as prepared for the NFL or whatever you have going on after graduation as you do at all of those other schools. So I really like the fact that he has put the lie to the, oh, you can't recruit at Notre Dame, it's too hard. Yes, you can if you work hard at it. And that's what Freeman and his staff are doing.
He's just such a genuine guy. People, I think, are drawn to him. Young people, parents, they're drawn to him. You're right, the work ethic piece of it, I'm not arguing that at all. But he also brings that authenticity and that certain intangible quality that we all see. And I think, people want to be around this guy, this culture, this program.
Did anything happen? Did anything happen with any of those, Penn State refugees or any of these coaching change? I mean, weren't there some guys that were mentioned that we were sort of taking another swing at, and what happened with some of those situations?
There were, but nothing real. Like one of them ended up at West Virginia, and I don't think anybody, none of the recruits pulled the trigger. Now, whether Notre Dame can benefit not only from Penn State, but also Ole Miss and a couple other places through the portal.
27, right.
Yeah, and I think it'll help a lot more in 27, and it'll probably also help in January when maybe we bring in one or two high quality wide receivers or something just to balance out the depth.
It might help a lot in the portal as well.
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah. In other good news, great win for Micah Shrewsbury and the men's basketball team, beating an SEC opponent. Oh my God, an SEC opponent. We knocked off Missouri last night at home. And, not a great crowd, 5,000-ish people, but they were making some noise. And it was a much needed win to bolster our resume, right? Getting those Power 4 wins non-conference are huge. Eddie, give me your take on the performance of the Irish last night.
Yeah, at halftime, I was texting with somebody and just, really lamenting the turnovers. We got off to a good start, played well. I really think that this team has better feet and better hands on defense than a lot of teams that I've seen in the last 10 years. They seem to be athletic enough to play good defense on just about anybody, but their Achilles heel has really been scoring the basketball consistently. They have not shot the ball well from three, and they basically have big guys who won't even look at the basket. They're just so they're so handcuffed down below. So they really have to get production from behind the 3-point line, because they're just not going to get anybody. The new kid from Northern Arizona is a great rebounder, but he's not. He and Keba are just not going to put the ball in the basket in double digits. So it was really terrific to see them basically take care of the basketball in the second half. I think they had 3 turnovers in the second half as opposed to 10, and hit big shots down the stretch. I mean, they have been in every game that they've played, and then they get a little bit of a drought. So this was huge. It's not, I think, if you had to maybe pick one of the two, I think you'd probably rather get the Ohio State win, maybe because it's a road game. But still, to have a chance for postseason basketball, this was sort of a resume builder you had to have, and they got it done. So hats off to them. They never faltered. Even I really did not feel good after Harrelson went to the bench with 5 or 6 minutes left, because he is playing downhill and getting confidence with each game, and he makes a really nice compliment if you could get Burton and Serta and Baby Shrews hitting from the outside. So they have the ability to be dangerous and to give a lot of teams a lot of trouble. But they've got to win the games that they're supposed to win, and pick off another 2 or 3, and I think they'll be just fine. I was encouraged last night for the first time in a while.
Harrelson, Bram, I don't know if you got to see a game or not, but you'll love.
Yeah.
Harrelson was aggressive, right? Got downhill all night long, finished at the rim, a little bit of foul trouble, right? But the 3-point shooting, Ed, absolutely. When we get some, we're going to be tough to beat. Cole Serta, I think 4 for 7, and then Imes hit a huge
Big
one in the
one.
corner
His was
late in
big.
the game.
His was big,
That
yeah.
was huge. And, in the first half with the turnovers, there was a period where I think we maybe had 3 turnovers in a row that led to baskets. And it was when Burton was on the bench and, Imes and others had to handle the ball. And so it was good to see a little bit of redemption there. Yeah, Bram, overall thoughts on the significance of this game relative to the big picture?
Yeah, no, I think it was a big sign. I watched the whole Houston game, and it was pretty painful at first, but they did, as Ed said, they play hard defense. So to hold Houston underneath 75 points, I mean, that's a pretty decent uh, accomplishment, and I think that set the table for them going into this game. Now they got down 10, and Shrewsbury got teed up right before halftime, and that's when things started to turn. I think he went into the locker room and probably got them pretty fired up because they came out with a purpose, cut the lead to 0 almost immediately,
Yeah.
like in the first 5 minutes.
There was a little thing with Burton and Robinson right before halftime too.
Oh yeah,
So,
and that I tell you.
yeah.
That was a great battle to watch. Man, those
Yes.
two were going at it all night. That was awesome. And I think Burton got the upper hand at the end. He's just a competitor. I mean, it just goes to show how much that guy wants to win. And you're not used to seeing that. I mean, for being the size that he is, it's why he's so dynamic. It's why he gets to the hole. He literally has kind of got that Jordan-esque competitiveness to him. He is absolutely fearless. I mean, no
I
doubt
thought the
about
best
it.
part of Burton's game last night was the 10 assists. That was really great. There's times
Yeah.
when, we see the assist numbers way down. And last night we were sharing the ball, moving it. And he found Harrelson a couple times for dunks, it really gave you a flash of what this team could be. And holding Missouri, that's a high-powered offense, right? Holding them to 71. So, we're going to have our chances to win because of the defense. And if you can knock down some shots, because Eddie, as you said, man, there's no low post offense at all. So that's a bit of a problem. All right,
Hey,
but that's a good one.
Once again, to close the loop on things, Vegas had Notre Dame -1.5. So let's turn this over to the professionals, guys. Come on, what are we doing here? What are we doing?
All right, nice. We're gonna leave it on that note. Vegas knows all. Trust in Vegas. That's what Jordanic's motto is. Okay, for Mike Coffey, Mike Brammer, and Ed Jordanic, this is Mike Sullivan. We'll see you next time on Dome and Domer.